Hey, I'm Scott,
And I'm Charity.
and we're pastors of St. City, a church outside of St. Louis.
We've been together over 15 years
And we've been through a lot.
and are going through a lot.
We failed and succeeded,
We've flown and we've fallen.
and we've lived a whole lot of life along the way.
We've worked together more than 15 years in marriage, in ministry, business, and parenting.
And did I mention we have 4 kids, 9 and under?
And if we've learned anything, it's that life is not about the arrival.
It's about all the life along the way. Hey,
Hey,
I'm Scott,
and I'm Charity.
and welcome to Life Along the Way. We're here kicking off our podcast. So we're brand new at this, but we're excited because really it's just kind of about life and the things that we experience and the things that we're going through right now.
Yeah, so we've been through a lot. We have been married 15 years. This June,
Ooh.
we've been together almost 16 years, and we've had a lot of failure, fights, craziness along the way.
Well, check it out. So we're pastors of a church called St. City Church, just outside of St. Louis. We are married. We own a business. We've planted churches. And
We have 4 kids.
did I mention that they're 9 and under?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
And an old dog.
Yeah, he's really old.
Yeah, he's old.
So, I mean, his name's Ty, but we could probably call him Lumpy. He's getting lumpy.
Yes.
He's just a weird dog.
But all that to say that a lot of times we feel like our life has been filled with disappointments that are unnecessary because we seem to be trying to go from point to point, but really it's about that space between the points. It's about living along the way, and that's where we learn our best lessons and we have the best experiences and really adventures.
So we kind of want to set a framework for some of the things that we talk about and how we come up, not just with our content, but like what we're going to talk about. And so this week we kind of want to start off and set a model for what we're going to be doing. It's kind of going to be like a road trip.
Yeah. So I always liked road trips. We had a huge family growing up. My parents did foster care. And so I had never ridden on a plane until my honeymoon. That was also the first time I had been on a trip without a chaperone.
Yeah, I was helping her live that good life.
But we always went on road trips. Anywhere we went, we had a ton of people. And so for us, anytime we went somewhere more than 45 minutes away, it was like an event. It was this adventure. And looking back on conversations, my parents, I did not realize a lot of those were not exactly planned and did not go as well as I thought it did and as a child. But when we were talking, there's kind of a different mindset that you have as a kid on a road trip or on a trip where you're just along for the ride and you're going to have fun and you're going to look out the window and you're going to, have a good time no matter what. But as an adult, we kind of drift into this different mentality that's almost like a destination focused.
Or like, when are we going to get there? When are we going to get there?
When are we there? When are we there? When do I get the stamp in my passport?
Yeah.
And instead of having this focus in life, like, hey, this is a road trip and there is like so much fun stuff and maybe not fun stuff, but important lessons or good things to learn along the way. We get into this destination focus to where the time between our destinations becomes this layover or this delay where we're standing in one spot and we're waiting and we're not productive. Whereas in a road trip, if you get, in a traffic jam or a detour, that's sometimes the time that you find the best hole in the wall restaurant.
So here's the thing, we're celebrating our 15th anniversary coming this July, right?
are.
And we were together before then. So we've been together 15 years, but married 15 is coming
Been together
up.
16,
And
married
so
15 coming up.
Have we arrived yet?
Nope.
No, there's
No.
a lot of stuff that we're dealing with and we've dealt with, and there is a whole lot of what we call life going on along the way.
Yeah. I remember before we got married, we were obviously very young. We joked that when we got engaged, I was 19, and then I turned 20 while we were engaged, and we joked like, oh, yay, you're no longer a youth in the youth group. And so, but we were young whenever we got married, and there's a lot to say with kind of growing up together, which we did, but the expectation that I think we both had, particularly me, on getting married was this kind of this destination mindset. Oh, we're going to get married, and that's the hard part, is finding the person you're going to be with. And then everything's, great. Look at any Disney movie, and it ends with the marriage and the happily ever after.
That may have been a sign that you didn't fully know me.
I had no idea. No
because
idea.
being with me all the time while being amazing and probably one of the most incredible things that any person who would choose me would experience,
Okay, we're being a little extra.
there's some challenges that probably come with all of this.
There's a lot of challenges. And so, especially coming out of a culture that was very purity based, that was very like Christian based, as far as just find the one that you're going to be with and then everything will fall into place. And I soon learned, like, holy cow, like, the wedding is not the period. The wedding is like the comma for the rest of everything that is coming. And literally, like, even right before we got married, there was a lot of what was to come and kind of a journey to get there. But coming out of our wedding, coming into our marriage, we did not have a great first part of our marriage.
And for me, yes, there was that whole purity aspect, but I would probably say more often than not, behind the scenes, I was playing a bit of a game. So externally, it seemed as though you and I were like right on the same track. However, at certain points and certain periods, I was kind of going off track and doing my own thing. But I was doing it so well that I almost had myself fooled.
Yeah,
and I kind of
you
believed
did.
that I was still kind of in that purity mindset and still doing this because externally, no one could really tell.
Yeah. So I think for him, it was almost like a growing up having my own family type of destination, where for me it's like, oh, everything's gonna be great now. I found the person I'm gonna be with. And both of us, from a different angle, had this mentality of like, oh, once we get married, everything's just gonna fall into place. And obviously, if you have, lived more than 3 months in this world, that is not how it happens.
Yeah.
That even in the Bible, if you look at Genesis, that Satan didn't really come into the picture until after they were married and after Adam and Eve were around. And so stepping into marriage, being so young, despite having, a solid belief in God, there was a lot of obstacles, roadblocks, detours, car chases.
Yeah, that'll be a story
Car
on
chases.
episode something 100.
Yeah. That we went through. And I don't ever want it to come off like we've arrived, because we have not arrived. I don't know if we will arrive,
Yeah.
but we have learned and experienced a lot through those experiences.
And just to say, we're not just going to talk about couple stuff.
No.
There's stuff that I've dealt with in my life that was completely separate from her, or things that I'm dealing with that while we're married are separate from my relationship specifically to her. So we plan on talking about things of faith. We plan on talking about life and the substance of life and things that we encounter. And so really what we want to do is, as we kind of share one of our first stories and we're together in so many things, is we want to talk about a little something that we went through in our process to getting married, right? Actually, in the beginning of us prepping or leading up to those days of our wedding date, some things kind of went wrong.
like everything went wrong.
Everything?
I'm pretty sure everything went wrong. As a 20-year-old, I was 20 when we really were planning.
Yeah.
It's, everything's gonna be perfect. We had this awesome venue. We were huge of U of I fans, and so we're all about the Illini. And we were able to arrange to get married at the Methodist church that was right there by the Union. We were gonna have our ceremony there, and then walk over for the reception at this awesome Union Hall. That
And we
was
were
just-
basically like a 4th of July wedding. Is
yeah,
what
we were
trying to
4th of
do.
July, so we got married July 2nd.
Which was the weekend of the 4th of July. So everybody was like celebratory, had extra time off. And we just thought that we found the perfect weekend and the perfect time
Yeah.
where like everyone would have extra holiday pay and time to
Yeah.
just come and celebrate us.
Because
Well,
that's what it's all about, right?
I would probably say it was to celebrate me.
To celebrate you,
That
yeah.
I found something awesome. But hey.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So basically, leading up to the days, I had to drive up to Chicago and pick up some of my groomsmen who were arriving into the Chicago airport. Now, we got married in central Illinois in a town called Champaign-Urbana, where the University of Illinois is. And on the way to picking up one of my groomsmen, I started to have some stomach issues.
So I was still finishing working. We were out of school at the time because it was July, late June, July. He went up to go get his people. I stayed behind because I was still working, getting things ready for the weekend. And I get a call that he had to stay an extra day up there because you were originally going to get
One of my groomsmen came in
One
late.
of the groomsmen was Aaron. He went to go get him, and Elliot was supposed to come in that next morning. Well, Elliot was from California, and he missed his flight, and so he could not get in until the next day. So I'm already like, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
what is going on? So we are on like countdown. This is the day before
The rehearsal dinner.
And so him and Aaron are like, oh, we're going to hang out. And they had people over. They were having a good time, drinking, partying, doing all this stuff, having a good time. And the next day I'm talking to him and I know that he was out late, right? And he's kind of saying, I don't really feel good. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me right now? You're going to call and complain to me that you're up there like hanging out with your friends and you're hungover. Like, I don't feel bad for you.
It legitimately wasn't a hangover, but just like every future spouse, a day or two before the wedding, when they start saying and they're with their friends and they're having a good time, that's the automatic assumption that like he overdid and he's going to be dragging rear. And I'm telling you right now, like he did this on purpose.
So I was already pretty irritated because he was supposed to be back that day. And so I think I was at like the salon getting something done. I think my nails or something. So I'm already irritated. And I'm going back to the house and we get a call, and it was from Elliot, his best friend from college. And he's like, yeah, I think you guys are going to have to come up here. You know, Scott, we had to call the ambulance. And I'm like, did you guys get in an accident? What the heck's going on? And basically he said that, you know, Scott's really, really sick. He needed to get the ambulance. So initially, like, not proud woman moment. I was like, are you kidding me? We're about to get married. And because he overdid and he drank too much, he's going to be up there and not only like get another bill for the doctor, but also probably not be able to get in for us all to hang out. You know, I had people coming in that day. He had more people come in.
Little did you know that really nothing could be further from the truth, because when we left the house that morning to pick up my friend, I was beginning to not feel good. And I thought, man, I must have ate something bad. So on the way to Chicago from where my family lives, it's about an hour drive to O'Hare, one of the larger airports. And on the way, there's what's called an oasis, which is like a rest stop with a restaurant in between the highways going both directions, and you can pull over at the side. And I asked my friend, I said, I'm so sick. I think I've got to go to the bathroom. I'm sweating. I'm dying.
Now,
There's
take
pain.
in mind, this is during like the 4th of July season. So this is the weekend before 4th of July.
Yeah.
So in Chicago, that is the Taste of Chicago, which if you have not heard of it, it's one of like the biggest culinary hangout, like fun things.
It's pretty cool.
In the country. And so all these people come out and the traffic is crazy.
We're stop and go.
Yeah, if you know anything about Chicago, the traffic is horrible anyway. So you add that on top of it, and it's just bad.
We pull over at this oasis, and I don't even know if this spot is still around, but it's an old McDonald's, and I mean like a rough McDonald's that's in between the highways. And we pull over, and I remember going into the bathroom, closing myself in the stall, can barely make it. I don't have to go to the bathroom, but I feel like I have to go to the bathroom because there's just so much pain and so much horrible stuff. And I end up laying down on the brown, slimy tile in the McDonald's bathroom just to allow my face to feel the cold temperature on the tile. And I remember just being there and saying, thank you, God, for letting this cool tile be here, because I was just hurting so badly. A minute or two later, it could have been 20 or 30. I have no clue. My buddy Elliot comes in and he's like, Scott, what's up, man? And I said, look, I've got to get to the hospital. And he's like, you're just joking. You got a stomach problem, probably got gas. You're good. So we get back in the car and they talk me out of something's wrong. And as we're driving, we are in the car. And I basically say, I can't handle this anymore. I have to get to the hospital. And so we called 911 and we asked for an ambulance, and come to find out there was no ambulance that was going to get to us in the traffic. So we end up in a not so great part of Chicago. There are some amazing parts of Chicago, so please don't get me wrong, but we weren't in a good one. And turning through the neighborhoods trying to find a hospital. So I end up at a hospital in an ER because I didn't have an ambulance. It wasn't automatic. I'm standing in front of someone dying saying, I just hurt so bad. This pain in my stomach. And eventually they take me in. I remember coming in and out of consciousness in the process.
Yeah. And so, on our end, we get another phone call. We get to the house, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And we get another phone call, and it's Elliot, and he's like, hey, yeah, they're admitting him. Something's wrong. He's in bad pain. He's, kind of going in and out of being asleep, but they're admitting him, and they're going to see, they think they have to keep him and see what's going on. And so immediately I'm like, what the heck? And then shortly after that, we got the word that he needed emergency surgery.
But in that process, I remember waking up once and them saying, your kidneys are shutting down. We have to do surgery.
Right.
And then going back to sleep and waking up, and I say, are my kidneys failing? And them saying, no, your appendix is ruptured. You need to get your appendix out.
Yeah. And so I really quickly went from being annoyed, like, I can't believe him, snotty 20-year-old, to, oh my gosh, I'm not even going to get married. Like, God's punishing me because now I'm not even going to get married. He's going to die. Something's going to happen. And so I go into full panic. And just to throw this out there, if you don't know this about me, which if you do know me, you probably know this, I have zero sense of direction, like zero sense of direction. And so this is the time before having an iPhone where you can just, hey, Siri, go to Chicago. And so I'm in the house and I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, like, I lock the door. Let's get a little more specific. I lock the door in the bedroom of Scott's parents' house in Central Illinois. I go into the closet. I lock that door. I get on my phone and I'm like bawling. And I'm not really a crier. So, no. I mean, I was breaking down. And I get on the phone with my mom. I'm like, Mom.
You love me a lot.
I do. I love him a lot.
She loved me a lot.
I loved him. Yeah. And I'm crying. I'm like, Mom, Scott, something's wrong with him. And he's in Chicago. And I don't know if we're going to be able to get married. And, I was so focused. Yes, I loved him. I love my fiance. I love my husband now. I was so focused on like, oh my gosh, we're getting married in a day and a half. Are we going to get married? And so I immediately go to, are we even going to get married? If he gets back, are we even going to be able to have a first dance at and I'm just bawling. And my mom, who is like the most meek, mild-tempered, quiet person you will ever meet, goes, Charity, suck it up. Your man is in the hospital right now. You need to snap out of it. Who cares if you have a first dance? That's not what you need to be thinking about. You need to figure out what you're going to do and go be with your man. And it's like, I don't know if it's because she knows that I'm not a weepy person. She knew that was like, okay, let me slap you a little bit, like snap out of it, stop being dramatic.
Sometimes moms need to go into coach mode.
So, and I kind of respond to that. So I'm like, okay. So I come out and Scott's parents were there and I'm like, okay, and we need to go. And they're like, okay, so we just need to wait and see what happens. I'm like, no. Like, I'm going right now. I'm getting in my little Saturn and I'm going to go up to Chicago and I'm going to find where he is. Like,
they knew she couldn't drive with direction.
And so I'm thinking, I just need to print off MapQuest. So of course I just need to go to MapQuest, which for all y'all that are not old millennials like us, that was actually, you had to put effort into finding where you're going and print out the directions and then go and switch.
We're not
away
sponsored or affiliated in any way with this old-fashioned company called MapQuest.
But I used them enough I could have been. So Scott's dad's like, no, you don't need to go. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I am going right now. And so he's like, okay, well, I'm going to go with you, which is good because, he knows how to drive places. I know how to drive, not necessarily to places. And so we got in, we went to Chicago. There was crazy traffic because there was all these roadblocks. We had to take a different way. It was taking forever. And there was a hospital we had never been to. It was in an inner city area that we had never, it wasn't like a place we had hung out before, so it was hard to find it. There was construction, and I think we got there about midnight. And we got there, and
I think I was out of surgery when you
had just came out of surgery as we got up there. So we went up there, and it was then I realized, okay, like this isn't. I'm not concerned about the wedding anymore. I'm concerned about just who's my husband going to be? Like,
let's
my
roll
fiance.
back just a little bit because prior to surgery, a doctor walks in who, pretty awesome, was wearing a pin from the U of I. And so I remember like, oh my gosh, like I've got a doctor from the University of Illinois and I'm going to be getting married there. So I said, hey doc, this was the attending doctor in the emergency room. And she said, look, your appendix ruptured. I said, I understand. I'm getting married in less than 48 hours. I need whatever I need to do. I need to get to my wedding because I'm getting married. She very gently was like, well, I understand that, but you're kind of in a bad spot. This has to happen. We have to remove this. And I said, I understand. Get in there and remove it. But I need you to know that I have to get to my wedding. My wife is waiting for me, and I need to get home. I have a rehearsal dinner I'm going to miss, and I have to get to my wedding. And I remember coming out of surgery and then beginning the process of, well, you need to do this before you can do this, and you can't eat, and you can't this and that. And I remember just being like, whatever I have to do, I'm going to take myself out of this hospital, whether that means sign paperwork that says, I don't care what the liability is. I take it upon myself because I'm leaving to get married. And through that process, my ER doctor pops back in after surgery and says, hey, how you doing, Chief? Which is the mascot of the University of Illinois,
sure.
whether it's official or not. So I don't know where you're from or what your thoughts are on it. Go, Chief. So anyways, basically what happens is she checks in and I said, look, I need to check myself out. She's like, well, you haven't gone to the bathroom yet. You're not eating. And so basically I had my buddy Elliot hold up a bag of Doritos and a little thing of donuts. And I was like, I already started eating, even though you said no, because I knew you were going to make me eat. And they're like, you have to go to the bathroom. I was a little nervous about that. But I managed to go in. This is I either just before you got there or you were there when
No,
this
I was
happened.
there. I got there. You had just come in to recovery, and that was like 1 in the morning or
The
something.
details
Yeah.
are a little cloudy when
Yeah.
you're on morphine.
Just a little bit.
And
you
so
know, major
anyways,
abdominal
they
surgery.
basically, I go in and I go to the restroom, I stand up, I walk down the hall, I do everything.
This is like 6,
And I
7
said,
in the
I'm ready to
morning.
go. And they said, look, you cannot, this is not the way this works. People get their appendix out and they're in the hospital at least a week. They're out of commission for 2 weeks. They're slow recovery. And I said to that doctor, I was like, look, I need you to go to the nurse's station and tell them whatever you need to tell them to prepare whatever paperwork needs to be prepared so that I can sign the documents and I can walk out of this hospital and go to my wedding. And believe it or not, because she went to the U of I and because she understood, and I think she really kind of like thought it was cool that like I was that passionate about marrying my bride. What she did was she made it happen. And they
did.
brought
She was
paperwork
awesome.
in. Now, they brought that paperwork in and I signed it. But as we were leaving, because we were focused on our wedding, but also we were focused on that honeymoon. Let's just be honest.
That
right?
is true story.
So we wanted
That
to be on
was
our honeymoon. So
absolutely
I
true
said,
story.
look, I know. They're like, okay, so you're going to get married. I said, yeah. And then within about 15 hours of that, we're leaving for Mexico. And they said, look, you can't go to Mexico. You could get an infection. I said, aren't there waterproof Band-Aids? I'll shave my belly. I don't care what I got to do for the laparoscopy incisions. So I'm like, I need you to write down the prescriptions that I may need if an infection takes place in Spanish. We were in a neighborhood where like probably a quarter to half of the hospital was Spanish. So I was like, write down the names of these antibiotics in Spanish on paper, and I'm taking them with me to my honeymoon. And they just looked at me like, you're either going to die or you're going to be the greatest hero that's ever
Now,
tried
let's
to get
be
married.
honest. Part of this determination comes from the fact that we did decide
To
to
wait.
remain pure and not to have sex before we're married. So it's like getting
And
up to the finish line. You're like,
it was hard.
Whatever we have to do
Yeah.
to make sure
If we die to
that
get
we
there,
get to Mexico,
it's
we're
worth
gonna
it.
get there.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
You know?
And so I feel like that was a little bit of the driving force, maybe.
So basically, I signed the paperwork. We get in the car and we run down, and I basically show up.
To the rehearsal.
I think it had already started. The rehearsal dinner
We
was
were
already
late.
going.
We were probably about 45 minutes late to the rehearsal. We had to kind of go through the rehearsal quickly, and then we went to the rehearsal dinner, and you had, he still had his incisions open.
Mm-hmm.
He was not walking well.
One of my cousins was a local ambulance tech. I won't say his name because I don't even know if what he did was he was supposed to do, but he got me some extra bandages and stuff like that. And he showed up at the hotel where my groomsmen were and was like, all right, get this cleaned up and take care of this. So for the longest time, one of the most proud things that I had it wasn't just making it to the rehearsal dinner. It wasn't just making it to the wedding, But it was in addition to that, I was given pain pills, some pretty good pain pills, and I only took one of those pain pills.
Because you were worried that you weren't going to be able to be like present
So
for the wedding.
I was worried that I was going to miss any part of the wedding and the wedding night. So basically, I just wanted to be present. I wanted to get married, and I was not going to take pain pills, and I was going to make it. And it was something that I really believe that like God gave me some supernatural ability, because as a man and as a dad and as a husband, when I get a cold, I am like the biggest
my
baby
gosh.
ever. So how I was able to pull off such an epic manly thing in that moment, it had to be supernatural.
Well, in all honesty, kind of going back to what we were talking about life along the way, and how if you live from destination to destination, you have this layover mentality of the in-between spots. At that point, you weren't, yes, you wanted to get to the wedding. It was because you wanted to be married. You were
say
ready.
something a lot of times about like sometimes the devil's in the details. And had that not happened where we had to focus on each other in that moment right before our wedding and during our wedding, and appreciate that dance and appreciate the night we got to spend before we went on our honeymoon, literally, we would have been more focused, or at least one of us would have been more focused on the details
Yeah,
instead of our union
right.
and putting each other
It
first.
was, as much as it felt like the focus came away from the wedding, really what happened was having that detour and having all those different things that weren't really in the itinerary happen made our focus go to the union, which was the entire point of a wedding, is the union. It's the mingling of souls. It's the, capital at the beginning of the sentence. It is not the period at the end. And so that first dance, which we were able to have, like, we had so much more appreciation. Everything going around, drama, this and that, we had like 300 people at our wedding. We had like 7 bridesmaids and groomsmen. So we had a big wedding. We had a big family. So
to this day, I believe that we had one of the most epic weddings,
Oh, it was
if not
amazing.
the most epic wedding that we've ever been to.
true story. It was
Yeah.
pretty, I don't know, Adam and Hillary was pretty epic. That was fun too.
That was pretty epic, yeah.
Maybe a tie.
Yeah.
But all of that to say, we were able to kind of shuffle from that mindset of destination, like this has to be right, this has to be right, this has to be right, and go into really what I feel like God wants to have, which is kind of a kingdom mindset. And I know that's kind of Christianese to say, but kingdom mindset is just an eternal mindset, not looking at just the little things in front of you, the destination, but looking at the whole picture. And, the whole picture is we were going to become a family that day.
Yeah.
It was going to be me and you. Our spirits were going to be commingled, and that was going to be the beginning of the journey, not the end. And so because of all that, we were able, and honestly, we were even able to not focus on, hey, we get to have sex at the end of the wedding. It was, you know what? Like,
We're together.
This might not happen physically because he just had major abdominal surgery, but having that focus go to like, hey, we're going to be together for the rest of our lives. And this is the start of a new thing, and what we've been praying for and what our parents have been praying for. And so it definitely switched our mindset from we're just going to party as much as we can. We're going to have our friends here. We're going to get the pictures, to like, this is just me and you. It's just me and you.
God knew ahead of time what we were going to go through. And we were on the edge of focusing on the wrong things for our
absolutely.
wedding. And it literally took some amazing obstacles and near tragedy to get our eyes to be put back on the proper thing. And so I just want to say we have amazing parts of this story that are still yet to come. As a matter of fact, we almost died during our honeymoon.
Yeah, he almost died before our marriage, and then we almost died after the honeymoon. The honeymoon, really.
The first several days of the honeymoon.
And then, it's crazy.
There
From that
is
day
more
on.
to come to this story.
There's
So check it
more
out.
life along the way
We
that was
want
lived.
you to continue to join us on this podcast, not because we think we have amazing things to say that you're going to be interested to hear, but we believe really that some of our life lessons and some of the things that we've gone through may help you along the way. And so we want to encourage you to join us on our next podcast, which will be episode 2.
What?
Did we actually complete an episode?
I think we did.
I mean, the first one might be done, but don't forget, there is more about this honeymoon that we're going to be talking about. That was amazing and also near deadly that we would love to share with you on this next podcast. We want to thank you for joining us.
We want to remind you that, hey, life's a road trip. It's not a layover. So enjoy it and know that the good stuff comes from the life that happens along the way.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on our next episode.
Bye, y'all.
See ya.